Mhm. It is Tuesday.
Hello. Yeah, it is. I know I'm off on my days too. I thought yesterday was Sunday. Oh my gosh.
I know, part of me, I'm like, "Well," I'm like, "Oh, we have a live tonight." We need to get that ready. Um,
Yeah.
alright. Talk about some soul retrieval and some, workings on that, experiences for soul retrieval. I know I do most of my healing work anyway is with, our vets, and, you know, I feel like they could use a lot more help than what they're offered in the mainstream. But hello, everybody. Our friends are starting to join us. Hello, hello. We're
Hello.
gonna some soul retrieval tonight. And this one, we have a lot of notes. Maria, you provided a lot of notes, and I love lots of talking points um, on this topic. And I feel like this one could go pretty in depth. And we were just talking before we went live, like how in depth on certain parts did we want to go, or leave that and be like, hey, maybe we need to do a part two if people are really interested in this. But while I finish updating, Maria, why don't you tell everybody what soul retrieval really is and why it's necessary?
Soul retrieval is reclaiming pieces of your soul, fragmented souls, due to um, any experience of trauma, emotional distress, or life altering events, like a loss of a loved one that was very significant to you. And it's like feeling that you are completely lost, something is missing. Because definitely a death would be very significant if that person meant a lot to you, and I had to go through this because I lost someone that was significant to me. So I knew I had the tools and I knew what was going on. But someone who doesn't know what is going on with them, they feel like an unending chronic sadness, unending chronic, like, what is wrong with me? How come I can't function? How come I don't have the energy? How come I can't think straight? What is wrong with me? It's like something is missing, you feeling off. And it's like you're trying so hard. And then I've also experienced this where I literally see myself going through the day, but I'm disconnected from my body. And it's like, oh, who is that, what are they doing? So it's just things that happen in your life, and I basically chalk it up to trauma. And part of you haven't really gone through the grief, you haven't really gone through, if you lost a loved one, you haven't really gone through the grief. So a part of that piece of your soul, or fragment of your soul, is stuck, and it needs to be healed, to feel yourself again, to feel a wholeness or a connection, and just bring back a little bit of peace in your life. That's how through my experience, that's how I took it as. I know I put some general notes on it, but it's through my experience.
Yeah, I mean, it can be anything from physical accidents, a severe or even maybe not severe, like car accident, to where maybe it was just spinning out in the rain. And now you have this new phobia of driving in the rain that you just can't seem to, overcome. Like Maria said, a death of a loved one. Our vets serving in wartime, our armed forces, they are like perfect examples when they're coming back and they're not quite right. They can't seem to leave the desert or wherever they were behind. So that
Hmm.
PTSD. It's like anything that can cause a little fraction of your soul to like and like run away.
Mhm.
And so that you're not yourself, you don't feel right, you can't overcome simple tasks that used to be nothing to you. Sometimes it even can present as like pain spots in the body that you should be healing. Your doctors are like, hey, you're making great progress. And you're like, but I don't feel like I am, or this still
Mhm.
hurts just as the day that it happened. So it's literally bringing back those little fragments and, bringing it back together, integrating, creating that safety for that healing to fully take place. Um, Hi, everybody joining in.
Mhm.
Questions and comments absolutely are
Please.
welcome,
Mhm.
especially if you've never even heard of this. Feel free to, ask questions. We are here to answer. Um, I know in the shared mystic path that we have both trained in, it was covered there. You mentioned that you also covered it in some of the pranic healing. I
Mhm.
don't recall it so much in the Reiki training that I went through, because that's more of like physical energy and body, not so much retrieving stuff. At least how I was, trained. But I'm sure there are other practices. But I know that we have some similar training and what to do. It's kind of one of my favorite things to do for our armed service people, because
Mhm.
I feel like they're missing that
Yeah.
with their therapies and their medicines, and that there's just pieces that need to come back.
Mhm.
Um, Now, how often do you find that you do this for your clients? Because I feel like, at least for me, it's only often for me because of my certain clientele. Do you find that you have to do that as often?
Yes. 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 Because I do come across some clientels who are going through a crisis in their life, whether it's a loss of a job or even starting a job. Everybody has a certain degree of sensitivity, and everybody's different. No one's ever the same. So usually I would come across, and I have them understand this, and I said, I said, trauma is trauma. It
Mhm,
doesn't matter if it's a loss of a job, a loss of a child, a loss of a loved one, or a loss of some of these people are losing their homes because of what's going on with the economy. What now? It's just, you did not fail. And I always come across telling them, you did not fail. This is something that happened. And so let's get you back into a wholeness, let you go back into a calm, so we
mhm,
can move forward from this. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the clientele that you work with are severely traumatized. you know um but there, trauma, it depends on the person, how they look at it. If someone loses their job, or their livelihood has changed, it's like, oh my god, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do that? Is a trauma, because now they
mhm,
have to start all over again. And I have found out in my past life regression, some of the people that does come to do past life regression, they want to know why they feel this way, why they have this fear, why they have this, and that's fine. And once they get the information, if you guys believe in past lives, if you get the information, they have a little bit of clarity of where this started. You know,
mhm,
um, Also, sometimes, like energy healing, Reiki or any kind of energy healing, we might detect something. And I know you said Reiki, the one that you were trained was mostly physical. Trauma lands in the body, and it creates a blockage. So
mhm,
at that point in time, you may not know where it started, or how it started, or who started it, or what they said to you, or what they did to you. In private healing, we don't care. It doesn't serve you, so we're going to remove it. That's it.
Well, and that's a good point, that our mystic teacher, said when he was, like, training this, and you and I have sat through this multiple times,
Hmm.
this training, that when you have a client come in And either they say, hey, I think I need this, or, you're picking up that you need to do this for the client. Like, all we want to know is what the experience was. So, hey, death of a loved one 2 years ago. That's all I want to know. We
Mhm.
don't want you to be stuck in telling the story and telling the story and all of the emotional stuff around it, because it gets you stuck sitting in that trauma instead of staying in that space of, I am ready for this, retrieval and reintegration. So making sure you stay out of telling that story over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure we all know somebody that has had something happen that
Mhm.
becomes their life, right? They're stuck in that moment. They can't move past. That's how they identify. But then they often wonder, why can't I move forward from this? Why isn't my career taking off? Why isn't, I'm feeling better? Why are my relationships starting to deteriorate? It's because you're stuck there. So when you
Mhm.
come in for this type of healing, what the accident was or the trauma, and maybe a date, that's it. Mouth closed. We don't need the rest of the story. You've already lived it. You don't need to stay there.
Mhm.
Stay open for the healing. Um, yeah, it does for some people become a habit, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, they start identifying. And that's when it's a little harder, because pulling them out of that identifying trauma takes longer for the healing to work, and it slows down that progress. So Divine says, when a worldwide major event like COVID happens, how does that affect how you manage working with a client? It's a worldwide event. It's affecting everybody. How do you manage that for a client?
Well, for me, because during COVID, that was like 2021 when we started, I have come across with people who, I had come across with a client where she lost her father through COVID, but she could not go and be with her father because of the protocols that they have. So she took on that guilt that she wasn't able to say goodbye or even be there. So I had to work with her guilt feelings or whatever it is, and release that first. And I had people who said, "Oh my God, I lost my job when the shutdown happened."
Mhm.
So I had this client who felt like they failed, and I said, "You did not do anything. This is what's going on." So it's like pulling a person out of their own frame of mind and let them see another light, let them see another option. COVID was something it all affected. It didn't matter what status in life you were,
Right.
but everyone everyone has a certain degree of sensitivity. People did it for the first time in their lives. They were stuck home to be with their thoughts. Never did that before. So that was hard for them. And so when the shutdown was lifted, they went completely crazy, going out there, just doing anything. That is not good also. There were people, I know that there were long lines on the liquor stores. People started drinking a lot, addiction happened. you know um So you have to start slowly and pull them out of that, even though it was a worldwide event. Like that person, I started with her guilt of not being able to say goodbye to her father. And there was, I had to start that first with her so she can start looking at things clearly.
Yeah, I forget where I heard this, but there's the adage, like, I am you, you are me, and I'm the only one in the room, right? So even though it is a massive event, you and that client are the only ones in the room, and reminding them, like, while this was global, this wasn't your fault. You can
Hmm.
affect, being the client, their immediate area and their immediate well-being. So, we all cause a ripple in society. So giving them that extra little like light at the end of the tunnel of like, you couldn't be there for your father, but you are here for your immediate family.
Mhm.
And so giving them that pat on the back, helping them there, and dealing with then that grief so they can move on. Big world things, right? We've got a big world thing going on right now from our country affecting and
Mhm.
causing issues for a lot of people. I haven't had anybody come in and be like, I need help with this exactly. um, but that's where it's like, okay, here is your space. What can you affect? How are you staying mentally, emotionally healthy in this and not letting it consume you? And if pieces, fractures have started, let's kind of get them back in and keep you out of panic. You are in control of your immediate area in your immediate building or your being. And
B.
the people that are parents, like, it is your job to help your kids feel safe and protected. So we need you to stay out of that. So I think in that instance, it becomes, bringing in that calming, reintegrating those pieces and help like redirect that energy instead of panicking. What do you have control of and what can you make successful here? And,
Mhm.
be thankful of what you have and what you're going with. Um, Emily says, hey, friends, totally agree that it's about paradigm shift and changing the way you write your story. With my recent loss, that's been something I had to learn, not over identifying with the story. Yeah. I mean, there are people who just end up identifying with the trauma. And sometimes they feel like it's because nobody's listening.
Mhm.
And that's the important part of the healer work in doing that is we want to listen, but we don't want you to get trapped, stuck in that trauma again. So, it can be long. And sometimes soul retrievals are more than once, right? Because
Yes.
your higher self knows what is safe to bring in. If you've got 20, 30 pieces out there, you're not going to feel very good if all 20 or 30 got rammed back in. It's like a shock.
Mhm.
So it's a slow
No.
process of reintegrating. It's like rebuilding that Lego tower for stability. Um, and making sure everything's nice and smooth and locked in there and steady before you bombard with even more coming in. Um, but guys, yeah, questions, comments, if you feel safe in sharing, safe space here, feel free. Going over soul retrieval and the benefits. Um, Maria, you started to say, like, what are hints that somebody might need a soul retrieval?
Well, for me, I was, everything was off for me. Everything was off. And something was missing. And I could not put my hand on it or put my finger on it. So what I being the fact that I was trained, I knew what I needed to do. I was off. I was off. I couldn't get motivated to go through my day. Um, and for me, it was a death of a loved one that was significant to me. So the sadness creeped in, and I could not shake the sadness out. And I knew what I needed to do, but healers ourselves, we're a little bit stubborn in that point.
We make
But
the worst patients.
it's just feeling empty, and oh, there something is missing, and you are going through a chronic sadness. You can't shake it off. And it doesn't really have to be a loss of a loved one. Also, it could be you love this car and this happened, and it's completely total, or like some people who lost their jobs. This was something that they had no control over.
Hmm.
So it's just low energy, chronic fatigues, um, the grief that was never addressed.
Hmm.
I have come across with a lot of clients who has never addressed the grief or hasn't gone through the grief process. And I always would like them to go through that. And again, if a client cries when I'm having a session with them, I know they're releasing.
Hmm.
I know they're
Well,
releasing.
You
Go ahead.
mentioned in the notes, and it seemed, I'm like, why didn't I think to add that? And it's so obvious. Having dreams or the feeling that you need to reclaim something.
Hmm. Yeah. You haven't, your soul has a knowing, and it lets you know when you have dreams. So one of the some practitioners who does dream work also bring in some form of soul retrieval. Just like the inner child work. Some people bring some kind, it's going back to your childhood, the childhood or inner child that was traumatized. You know, uh,
Mhm.
Meditation. So if you take meditation classes, they go through that also. There's some form where you go and meditate and see yourself as an inner child. Same thing with hypnotherapy. You can do that too.
Mhm. I feel like, me personally, maybe this is gonna be the hot take debate. Um, the soul retrieval and reintegration process in, like, the energy work and, like, our mysticism, I feel like it's slightly different than just meditation or, just a Reiki, right? Because, at least for me and how I experienced it, like, you are literally getting this soul piece back and you are placing it, like, back into the spiritual body, and it's almost like doctor work where you have to suture it back in and energetically, like, meld it back into place, and for me, and I'm like, I don't see meditation really doing all of that. Maybe it could, maybe it could.
Yeah.
Um, but to me, it's always felt more of like a hands-on between the practitioner and the client rather than just going, "I want my lost pieces back. Here they are," you know? Um, and this is where you
Well,
have maybe, I'm assuming more experience that way.
yes, Silva, we did a technique. We did a technique. And meditation, when you go into meditation, you're actually aligning with your higher self.
Mhm,
And your higher self is aligned with the God source or divine source is what I like to call it. So when you bring the meditation with the intention of collecting your soul pieces, you
mhm,
know, meditation is going really deep into that. Now, the thing is, are you going to be ready for it? Because I did this and I was completely exhausted. I had to go to bed and sleep. I
mhm,
was exhausted when I did it through meditation, you know, and I had the focus and intention of bringing my soul pieces back. And yes, I shouldn't have done what I did. I asked for all of them to come back, and boy, did they come in.
Exhibit A.
Yeah. And I was really exhausted. So I had to go to bed and I slept through the next day because
Mhm,
that's how much it was like my body was missing those pieces. And all of a sudden they came back and they were like, I can't. I'm just completely exhausted. But
mhm.
you can do it through meditation. Just be prepared that don't ask for all of them to come back. And I did. You have to be careful with your words and your intention. You have to be, because if you're not prepared for it to all come back, you will probably don't even plan anything that night. You're just gonna be sleeping through.
Um, Now I'm reading through the notes about what to expect during a soul retrieval session. And you have listed like some drumming and chanting, some breath work. Um, it's really up to the practitioner who is doing it. And I know when I've done it, it's varied. It also depends on the
Hmm.
client.
Hmm.
Um, at one point, myself and a friend, colleague of mine, we were doing like a monthly, like just healing circle, and it was meant to be light and to just like good energy, light fixins here and there, carry on, have a good month type thing. And I ended up doing soul retrieval for a gentleman who was Vietnam vet, and I'm like, well, I guess we're doing some hard work right now, and like bringing that in, and he was the only one. And So I kind of changed what I was doing, but it was just me, my Kintu, him sitting in a chair, and it was just like this needed to happen for him. That's why he came. And he was the one off, and he and I talked about it later, because he did get emotional. And he's like, you did it a little differently for me. And I'm like, well, that's what you needed. you know
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I feel such a release. And I'm like, well, good. you know but it can change. And like I said, for me, depending on the client, what actions, what movements, what pieces I'm working with is going to change depending on what the client needs. A lot of times I'm playing certain types of music to set that space. And it does sound like chanting, but it's like an El Shaddai type chant. So it is connecting into the soul piece, and like keeping me there of like what's going on. And the client, a lot of times will fall asleep. But I know when we were trained, I think Zane did some drumming on part of it. At
Mm-hmm.
one point, there was all sorts of noisemakers that I couldn't wait to stop happening.
We did
Um,
we did do chanting too. We did
yeah.
do chanting before we started. Yeah.
So who knows what you and your practitioner will do for your soul retrieval? When you a lot of times a client, you're doing nothing other than being open and receive, and
Mm-hmm.
allowing that to come through. But there's no guarantee that it's going to be the same if you come in for a soul retrieval and your friend comes in next week. Chances are you're going to have a very different experience, at least on my table. And I'm sure Maria with yours too. um,
Yes. 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 Sometimes I like if I have a client that signed up a schedule a pranic healing in the middle of it, I'm doing I'm collecting their pieces. In the
mhm,
middle of it, I stop and I start taking my healing kin too, and I put them right there in their hands, and I place it, where it needs to be placed on the navel. But I start doing that, and then oh, I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. Oh, I had the healing kin too, and I'm calling. Yeah, I'm I'm getting two protocols mixed up. Um, I'm calling their. And sometimes when I call their soul pieces, I call the soul pieces that's needed now for them to get to the next step. I don't call for all the soul pieces to come back. I
mhm.
don't think Zane specified that.
I don't remember if he did or not. I know that's just
Hmm.
something I intuitively have, done. It's what's needed right now for this moment of healing.
Hmm.
Uh, and this was an instance, at least with that gentleman, he did not say, this just came through.
Hmm.
So, no worries if you're like, I feel like I need one, but I don't know what the event was. Okay, that's even better because you're not stuck in that trauma of
Yeah,
reliving
yeah.
it. So it's almost better that way.
Hmm.
But
Because you're not expecting it. You're not
mhm,
expecting it, and you're not having some kind of resistance towards it. I love it when you don't have that resistance because it's easier for me to do what I need to do. And then if Spirit said, get your healing kin to, I get my healing kin to.
mhm,
Um, because I do call, I don't know about you, but I do call a lot of my assistants from my ancestors and my guides to come in. And I'm focusing on the client. So I do call them in and they direct me. Like I said, they can sign up for pranic healing. And in the middle of that, they said, grab your healing kin too. And I
mhm.
start grabbing it, and then I start calling in some of their soul pieces, not all of it.
Um, and I know some of the clients, after having this happen, like sometimes lost memories are coming back,
Hmm.
emotions that they haven't felt in a while because they finally need to be processed. Those emotions for that moment had left when that soul piece fractured off. So it's finally addressing that incident that happened to cause that fracture. And sometimes that also means the memories that are finally coming through to finish incorporating that piece in and like locking it into place in that healing way, not just trying to shove a square peg in a round hole. Like it's there where it needs to be. It's been smoothed out. It's been taken care of. It is now back, not duct taped, electrical tape and, some Gorilla Glue. Like it needs to be. We do not recommend Gorilla Glue with soul
No.
retrieval. I will probably end up gluing part of myself with the Gorilla Glue because I have found the most common thing are the memories that pop up for them as it's happening. And sometimes it'll even tap into like some past life stuff that will bring it through. So it's an interesting process. I think that's one of my favorite things to do in the healing because it's so expansive. And it's like the most gratifying in a way, just because it's like such an interlocking healing that happens. It's part of my ego showing up like, that's my favorite ego. But I feel like the client gets the most out of those in the long run, in the broad scope of things.
Yes.
Yes. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Emily's like, maybe I need to schedule an appointment. Well, Maria is available the second and third Saturdays of the month from 1 to 5 at Goddess Sleep.
Yeah, I like what you said about the memories, because I find that when the dots are starting to connect, and then they have a clarity. Sometimes the memories may not be as good, so sometimes I end up talking to my clients after a healing session. They're releasing, they're crying, and then the next, it's like a layer of onions. You release one thing, there's another thing coming in. So I have, some of them, they might have feelings of anger or guilt, or so I have to talk them through, so they have an understanding of what happened, and I usually tell them, please be gentle with yourself. Do not ponder. Once the memories come in, I said, it happened, it's in the past. Who you are now is who you were, no longer who you were before. So I kind of make sure they understand that, this, because some of them are, when they start remembering, especially when it comes to childhood trauma, and they start remembering, it can be very devastating for them.
It is.
And their anger just starts building up.
Yeah, and that's part of the healing, is helping dissipate that anger. It's okay to feel it, but you don't want that to become the new way of being. It almost undoes part of that healing, because now you're back into a distress instead of in that healing. Sign me up. You know how to find Maria. It's not like she's hiding.
I used to.
Yeah, I have to drag you out and be like, no, Maria.
I used to.
And I think a good thing, not in our notes, but this is just coming to mind. I think people who have had their traumatic experiences in a younger time, and it's been years, and you've learned to live a certain way with that loss, right? So you've built this personality around. And then when you have that healing, you feel different, and it can be scary. Because you feel different and you're not used to it. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to be a little off, feel like, I don't know how to feel in this new me. And that's not wrong, but it's the new healed you, and you'll learn to feel lighter, to feel more, complete and more whole and just more healthy all the way around by doing that. But I think it's good to point out that You know, you may not feel comfortable right away, possibly because you learn to live for so long in that state, right? You learn to cope.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have new skin and new healing to work out, and that's important, to not try to negate that and make yourself feel the way you used to, because you're putting yourself right back into that traumatic experience. Maria,
Yes.
I am going through your mini novella of notes.
I know. I know. It was a lot. I had to cut it down because there was a lot more.
Wow. I love that you have so many notes, because a lot of the times in other like podcasts and stuff that I've done or am partaking in, like I am doing the full production and editing. Lord, could you help me with some notes here? And then here comes Maria with like mini novels, and I'm like, I love
Well,
this.
this is my favorite also. You know, whether I'm going to use one of my healing modalities or I'm going to use the shaman, my healing kintu, this is also my favorite because I really don't like seeing people continue with their lives being have pieces of their soul somewhere stuck. You
Mhm,
know, everybody should be calm, peace, joy, and harmony. Everybody
mhm,
should feel that. It is our birthright to feel that. You know,
mhm.
okay, something happened, something traumatic thing happened. Let's address the issue and let's move on. You know,
Right. You know, it's important to remember that one experience is not permanent. It happened right then.
yeah.
And you don't have to keep carrying that forward and taking that burden with you. So leave it back there, and get healed, and or heal yourself if you're able to, by all means. By
Hmm.
no way are we saying that you have to come to one of us for it. You know, if you know how to do it, or if you want to attempt, you know, maybe get guy if you've never tried it yourself, um, have somebody help you maybe. Um, and this was something that we were kind of talking about before. Like, do we get into in the mysticism path when you're calling those pieces, you know, Pachamama guards those pieces. Pachamama loves
Hmm.
us. She guards us. You know, Pachamama Gaia, however you would want to refer to her. She is like our ultimate, like earthbound mother here. And she loves and protects us. And when our soul fractures off, little pieces of her gathers those up and holds them safe until you're ready to take them back. Now,
Hmm.
in part of that training, it's like because she is guarding that, when you as the healer approach to take that, it might come off as like scary, you know, goblins, demons, gargoyle, you know, but those are just the protectors. And when you prove that you are there on the betterment of the client, then she will release them. And so that's why I'm like, if you're new to this and have never done this, maybe have some help and guidance, if you go down that road, to know what to do. But I love the fact that Pachamama is like, I have this for you, and I will safeguard it until you are ready.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
holds it safe and dear. So your pieces are not lost and gone forever. You know, they're not that missing puzzle piece from the thrift store. Um, she has them, and she is guarding them and loving them until you're ready to take them back. Um, but yeah, if you guys have any other questions or want examples or something, now's the time to ask. Um, I thought we might be talking longer on it because we have so many notes, but so many of them got like
Come,
grouped into.
yeah, group into it. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, let's see. I did know like the addictions or compulsive behaviors used to fill a void, especially when that happens after a traumatic experience, right? And by no means are we replacing any medical, physical doctor advice. Do not replace one for the other. If you so choose, use them in conjunction together, not in place
Hmm.
of. Please
Hmm.
keep taking your prescribed medications and see your regular doctor visits. I do like that there are a lot of mainstream clinics starting to get a little bit into the woo woo and the healing. Like I've noticed Cleveland Clinic has Reiki up on the walls now,
Hmm.
and some VA clinics are having that, and I'm just waiting for the VA to let me come in and play and like do some work with our vets. I'm like, please let me come play, please. Please let me do things. Um, but yeah, if you guys have any questions about soul retrieval, how it happens, what kind of traumatic experiences, which could be anything. And please do not compare your traumatic experience to somebody else's, one being more traumatic than the other. That is not the point.
No, no. And there's absolutely no judgment. If you ever go to a practitioner, any kind of practitioner, there is no judgment. You know, this is where you are. You're trying to get some answers and get some healing done. There's absolutely no judgment. Because I have come across like every single person does have a degree of sensitivity. Some person are strong enough to withstand a car crash, lose their car, and they move on. You know, they may have a little bit of soul pieces there, but they move on. Some people, they're just stuck there and they just don't know how to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so you know, for healers, and I know you mentioned, I think you mentioned it, Melissa, you have to know where your client is at, how we can move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that doesn't mean that you're going to keep telling your story over and over and over and over. If you want to tell your story, just give us the highlights. That's it. I don't want, I don't need a story. I'm just there to help you. Let's move this energy. Let's remove this energy of the void there, and then just put in your soul piece back to make you whole. I
Yeah, it's
just
like
don't need, yeah, I just don't need a novel like the novel I gave Melissa, but my notes.
you know, that the little bit of highlights is enough to know, like after the pieces are acquired, the healing that needs to come after to help integrate them back in more so.
That's interesting. Okay.
You know, at least for me. But in a way too, it's like we don't have to know the story. Again, if you feel like you need one, you don't know why, you just, that's great. And like we said earlier, that's almost kind of the best way, because you're not stuck in it and reliving it. And then it is our job as the healer to find those pieces and bring them in. And then we get the information as we're working. We may not need to know that you were a part of 9/11. We may not need to know that you lost multiple members of your family in some situation. We just know now that there's unresolved grief, there is the abandonment, and that's what we're going to help take care of when integrating and smoothing those and bringing that in. So in a soul retrieval, can generational trauma show up? Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you for the
Yes.
question, Divine.
Yes.
Do you want to address that?
Actually, yes. Yes. I have come across a few clients that had generational that have popped up in their lives. I had to. One of them was actually two family members together, and they had experienced this. But I did it separately when I did the healing for them, only because their sensitivity level might be different. So I will never do hypnosis of soul pieces as a group, never, because everybody has a different type of sensitivity and everybody has different issues. But yes, I have seen in soul retrievals, I have seen generational traumas that showed up.
Mm-hmm. And the soul retrieval is a great way to stop it finally, right?
Hmm.
The trauma can be ways of behavior. I think we're all familiar with the saying about abusive parents were abused when they were younger, right? And they just keep carrying that on. So,
Addiction
working,
also.
hmm
Hmm.
so, working through there, and healing that that person, that instance. And I don't think we've touched on this yet in this talk, but how it ripples, right? So it ripples through the time. It's a way to help send healing back to ancestors, because if it's coming through them and it's repetitive and you're the one finally saying, I'm going to address this because I don't want to live like this anymore, you're stopping it. And that connection, ripples back as well. So, generational trauma, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
great way, the soul retrieval process, to heal it and stop it, and making sure it doesn't continue into the next. We are all going to be somebody's ancestors someday.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it. So,
And what I love about the generational healing, when the trauma pops up, and when I'm doing a session and generational trauma comes up, what I love about it is that once we start clearing that, it will benefit the future generations. So if you have children, if you have, and it's the family collective. Okay, so if you have children, you have niece and nephew, it's going to benefit the future generation.
mhm.
So when you get to that point, like, okay, this needs to stop. This cycle is just crazy. Um, you can be the conduit. We will, you come there for a healing, yes, for yourself, but you also having the next generation in the family bloodline to have the benefit also. And that's
Mhm.
what I love about it.
Yes. So thank you for that great question, Divine. And it's good to
Yes,
see
it was.
you. I haven't seen you in a little while. Hope you've been good. Hopefully it's not been too chaotic where you are. Oh, I have questions on the side for you, and books and library and chaos there. Um, um, but yeah, if you guys have any other questions, this is a good topic. It's one of my favorite ones to talk about and favorite ones to do. Um, and it's fun because, like we said before, no one soul retrieval is going to be the same as the next, as the next, as the next, because each client's different.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't want to go as far to say, if there's somebody who does the same process every single time for every single client, that it's bad, it's a sham, it's no good. I don't want to say that, because maybe that's just the comfort that practitioner, they found a way that works for them all the time, every time. But
Hmm.
for me, I have not repeated the same process for multiple clients, or even the same client. So take that as you will.
Yeah, for some of my modalities, we do have a protocol, but I also get guidance from my guides. So there might be a general protocol, and like take panic healing. We have protocols from a common cold to HIV, cancer, but that's how broad it is. We do have protocols, and I have the general outline of what the protocol is. But when my guides come in and say no, so I may remove a protocol based on their direction, or they may had me add another protocol on top of that protocol. So when I'm doing is a little bit of the soul retrieval that we do is called pranic psychotherapy, and that's I usually use my guides as guidance for me, because I do have the protocols. We do have protocols. They were put there for a reason from the grandmaster, but
Mhm.
I also listen to my guides, so it may never be the same.
Mhm. I like the idea of having that rough outline. You
Hmm.
know, I have what Zane gave, and I'm like, here's the outline, and I'm going to play all over inside this box with
Hmm.
what I need to do.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'm outside of the box if I need to
Hmm.
be,
Yes.
because that's what's needed in the moment. I bend that box in so many ways. It's a cube, it's a rhombus, it's a parallelogram. At times. Um, but one thing I don't think we've talked about yet, and I'm like, how do you think it's possible to do a soul retrieval for humanity as a whole? Talking about COVID, wars, things like that. Like humanity is
Well, it can be done, but you have to have a collective, gathered, and it's not so much doing a healing, but doing a blessing. So if you take 7 people and you concentrate with the intention of one thing, that 7 people is multiplied to 100, because that's how powerful we are. Our spirit is that powerful. You can have 7 collective people focusing on something, and then that is the energy wise is like 100. I'm
hopefully
surprised that a lot of I'm surprised that a lot of practitioners haven't gathered to do something like that.
maybe you should put a whisper in Master Ko's ear. Because Master Ko, who is like the main guy, right, in the US right now with pranic healing, and I can't wait to take a class of his.
There's several. There's a couple in New Jersey that was trained by the Grandmaster also. And then we have one in Columbus. She started with the Grandmaster, and then she went to Master Co, because the Grandmaster left the world. He
How
went to
dare
spirit.
they did not ask how we felt about that.
So I just like I go, the gathering of all these practitioners. I don't care what modality, just the gathering of them and having the intention and focus. But
well, Master Ko goes live pretty often on his Facebook. So
yeah.
I'm like, he could put that out there. And do you know how many people came in and in focus with him? He needs a suggestion on Dear Master
Let's
Ko.
do a collective energy.
Right.
And well, the thing about it is, when you do a collective like that, you're not focusing on the bad thing. You are infusing the love, because you know that negative energy and positive energy cannot coexist. No way. There's no way it can coexist. So it's infusing the love into the world and not so much focusing on the bad.
Interesting. Dear Master Ko. Because he just did like a prosperity one the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I opened up Facebook. There's his mug on the screen. He's doing prosperity blessings for everybody that was there on the live. And he had quite a few people. So I'm like, we should get him to do this. Let's do a gathering healing. 7's my favorite number. We got plenty of healers through the store. I think the hard part would be everybody's their schedules of how to get
the schedules. Yeah. That's a hard part, and I think a lot of people around the world, the
but
schedules.
I mean, obviously, there's plenty of us healers, but it's like who can do Friday night at 9:30, 30 minutes, but it could happen. Have to try. I haven't put it out there, but so maybe not necessarily a soul retrieval for humanity as a whole, more of a blessing is what you think, right?
Yes. Because negative energy and positive energy cannot coexist.
There we go.
Cannot.
Yeah, guys, any questions, comments? If you feel inclined to share, please feel free. I know there are a couple of students who started the last shaman program but didn't get to finish for different reasons, and I don't think they got to get into the soul retrieval part of their program yet. So
that's the best one.
I don't know.
That's
See,
the
this is where I'm
second.
like, soul
That's
retrieval or death rights.
no, death right and then soul retrieval. Those are the two
I
best
thought so.
ones.
Yeah, I thought so. I like my death rights. Don't get me wrong. I like my death
Yes,
rights.
I love my death right. I love it.
Mhm.
I that was an opportunity for me to use myself as a conduit for karmic karmic this life past lives. So that's what I did. The next death right I would like to do, I want to use myself as a conduit for the family, the generational
Hmm.
traumas.
You know, I
So
don't think he has done the death rights the same way that he did it that very first time. And I can't remember, were you in the very, very first program?
second the second.
So, um, that first one, I had to write my own eulogy.
Yeah, I had to
Um,
do that too.
you had to do that too. Had
Mhm.
the massage table and the blankets. We got mummified,
Mhm. Mhm.
soul taken out of the body, sent off wherever you
Mhm.
went.
Mhm.
Um, and we had to sign contracts that
Yep.
I state your name, promise to return, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. If you do not, you give Don Zane Kerfman permission to yank my ass back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so you couldn't just stay gone. And now he's in a room full of like unconscious
Ex-
bodies.
yeah, and
Yeah.
explaining this to the
Yeah.
medical profession, what
Yeah.
happened?
How do you explain that to the EMTs?
Yeah.
Um, but it was something to write my own eulogy.
Yeah.
You know? Um, I might still have mine somewhere.
I still
Um,
have mine.
but yeah. Oh, Gail says I'm watching it. Is Master Co on right now? That's interesting. I wonder if he's on right now. Um,
um, I liked when we went to the outing and we had an imagine what a possibility how our life would transition. And I thought that was cool because I never really thought about it until that day when we went out. What a possibility how I would, you know, transition out of this world into the next. So I thought that was cool also. I didn't go to all the detail. I just went through the process of, okay, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen.
mhm.
And having that, I guess he brought you to a place where this could be a possibility. And
Yeah.
so the next day, we actually did the death rite. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first time before we even did our eulogy, um, we had to put ourselves to the point of dying, however that
Hmm.
might look. And you have to be able to let yourself die and then appear across the other side of that waterfall that we were standing at and be able to look back at the body.
Hmm.
And if you kept stopping, like you had to start over and you had to start over. And what I found interesting, um, for I think all of the females, the moms, the ladies in that group that year, they struggled in the dying because they were picturing their kids and their grandkids around and upset and sad that they were dying and they didn't want to leave them, and that was the hard part. That was the hard part for me, right? And then you finally like let go and you move on. It was for the guys. It wasn't their spouses. It wasn't their kids. It was like, gee, that trip I never got to take, or that car I never got. And I'm like, huh, look at the divide in the group, I'm like, this is interesting. This is really, really interesting. Um, and I remember a couple of the other ladies commenting on it, and I'm like, not your husband. Don't worry about him. Um, but that it was an interesting take. So yeah, it's like being okay to let go and being able to leave that grieving family member
Hmm.
behind so you can pass. Um, so it was like different like stages of dying, and like you start here and you thought that one was hard, and then this next step that you're going to go through, that one's a little harder. So he walked us kind of like baby steps through it. But yeah, I really enjoyed being taken out of the body and sent up to God's source. And I wish I had pen and paper. I could have given you,
Ask a lot of questions.
we have had of theory of relativity and any science and the understanding of all things.
Mhm.
And within like 2 or 3 minutes of being back, it was gone. And now I am like, I know it was there and I lost it. Put me back, put me back. Um, but
Yeah, I wasn't worried about leaving any of my family behind, but I wasn't thinking about the new car I never got to drive. Okay, I was really my focus and intention was actually the karmic debt. Any karmic debt that I have created,
mhm,
anyone that I have hurt, this life, past life, that's what I wanted to clear. That was my intention.
mm.
I went into the death rite with an intention of what I wanted to accomplish. I don't remember the flashes that my guide, which was my great grandfather. I don't remember it. I know that I could not stand at all. You know, to get up from when they're unwrapping you and to get up and to go back to your seat, that was hard.
You know, what's funny is being up there at God's source and knowing everything, and then in that quiet and all the knowing and looking around, like I was zooming into different like realities and places, like I
Hmm.
remember that much. And then I got bored. And
Okay.
then I remember thinking, like, I'm down here because I got bored here. And like I came back before he pulled me back. So I was just laying there waiting. And that's why when he unwrapped, I just sat up and he was like, "You good?" And I'm like, I've been back. Like more mad now. Like I'm down here doing this because I was bored there. Seriously. But but I thought I did it wrong because so many other people in the class experienced different things. Like they became guides for
Hmm.
people, they did this. And I'm like, I was up in the nothing, like at 0 point, and was like watching everything and understanding everything. And, you know, so what is that theory? Like like God, goddess, whatever, comes down to relearn and re-experience. And so I'm like, well,
Hmm.
I can kind of see that now because of
Hmm.
that experience.
That experience, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. I wish I could remember. I know that I had flashes, visions that was presented to me, and yeah, I would love to have a tape recorder, a pencil and paper, and write down. You
Hmm.
know, because I don't remember. All I remember was my guide. My guides was there. I remember family member was there. But I remember just flashes of light of visions, and I can't remember the visions.
Mm. Divine asks, have you ever had a situation where your guide said, no, you do not need to work with this person?
Yes, yes,
Mhm,
that is the hardest thing. In in one of my modalities, I have to ask permission. So if a person is in the hospital and they're in a coma, I can't ask them. Or if their family members are not uh, in the woo woo path, or don't even understand it, or I have to go have my guides ask their guides if it's okay to work on this person.
mm,
I've had about maybe 4 or 5 people that I was given the word no. And I have to listen to divine when they say no. I don't know what the reason is. It's not for me. It's between that person and their guides and divine. Um, and I have to stop. But what I will do is I will make it a little bit comfortable because the body is going through some kind of physical
Hmm.
pain, whatnot. So I will make it a little bit comfortable, but I will not, I will hold back on what I need to do. Yes.
I mean, we had a mutual friend that you got to know. I was
Hmm.
not
I'm
happy.
sorry. I
I
had to
know.
listen to that.
I'm still yelling at her.
You can
Um,
yell at her, but I was given no. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't
yeah.
do the healing.
I'm trying to think. I think the only time, and maybe not necessarily a no or not for my hands, but more of like I just felt that my vibe and their vibe weren't just going to work as well as them and somebody else. Um, so that's happened a couple times, and that's where I don't rightly say like, no, my guys say not to work with. I'll be like, have you considered, and I'll pull from our list of people, and I'm like, I feel like given what you just said, this person's best for you, or go here. Um, and like if Maria's in the store, and she's not busy, I'm like, you know what? I'll call Maria over and I'm like, this person has questions about this before a healing. And, it's okay, at least at Goddess Elite, that you talk with the healer at first, and
Hmm.
feel them out. And in a way, Maria's kind of feeling out if they need to be with her as well.
Hmm.
Um, but it's only been a couple times. And quite honestly, I'm kind of a hard healer to get with. I'm not on the schedule. I'm not somebody, that you can book with. I tend to do my work behind the scenes with people. There's been a handful of times in the busyness of the store or fairs where somebody will walk up and they're like, "I need you," and I'm like, "What? I'm selling tickets right now. What do you mean you need?" Like, what do And then they'll start, telling, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, right this moment is not the time and place. I'm handling chaos. Um, let's schedule later. But I feel like, their guide, spirit, whatever, like directs them to me. And a lot of times they're very persistent because I will be like, dude, I'm busy. Like, I'm not even the one on the board or here. Like, are you sure? Like, look at all these faces right here. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Do you mean me that I got to sell you the ticket or put your name down? Like, is that what you mean? But, um, I tend to keep my work for like cancer and our armed forces people near and dear to my heart. And quite frankly, that's the time that I have. The store keeps me busy, and podcasting keeps me busy, and editing keeps me busy, and and wrangling cats keeps me busy. But yeah, we were talking soul retrieval. We got off a tangent on death rites and dying and our two favorite topics on the shamanism. Um,
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes. Those are the best weekends.
they are. They are. Um, and funny enough, they're like past the halfway point of like an 8 to 9 month apprenticeship
Hmm.
program. So you got to hang in there.
Hmm.
You can't skip because it builds.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
can't go, I want to do death rites because I heard them talk about it. And like, that's not how this works.
No, 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 no. Well,
Um,
as you build when you any kind of modality that you start, as it builds, there's a reason for that because your energy field, your vibration, it gets a little bit bigger each time.
yeah.
So,
Um,
and we can't take you from a beginner to death right. No, that's you're not going to be able to, I know, process it.
mhm.
So,
I almost feel
yeah.
like that might cause its own little type of soul fracture, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
to jump you too far, too hard, too quick.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it would be like a shock to the system.
Hmm.
Um, it by no means would I consider myself a complete expert in any of it because anytime Zane has that program and I'm able to sit through it, I sit through it again. and, remember what I may have forgotten, but he's always giving out new information each time and new ways of structuring and teaching to where different pieces that you might remember that he said last time, but it didn't just quite like click. Suddenly he's rephrasing it in a way that now like the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I will sit through that anytime he's doing it. But soul retrieval, some people feel like they need one. They don't know why. They can't remember necessarily the traumatic experience that happened, and that's okay. If you're feeling stuck, you can't get over it. You're tired of repeating patterns. You're tired of
Low
just,
energy, fatigue.
maybe a soul retrieval can help bring those pieces back, help get you functioning. It's kind of like your oil change. Get your oil change for your spirit out of here. And,
Soul retrieval, oil change. Okay.
yeah, we're going to straighten out that rim and we're going to get that. Because in a way, like our meat suit, it's like our car or our spirit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
get the detailing done and the wax and the undercarriage, like get all that taken care of for your spiritual journey on this planet. Because we're bored up there, so we're down here.
This was a challenge. Yeah. Didn't expect this challenge, but okay.
Like, really, I couldn't have found another hobby on another planet in another dimension. I came here. Really? Why? Let's see. Guys, if you have any questions, otherwise I feel like we'll just keep going off on tangents that may or may not even soul retrieval. But yes, no two soul retrievals are the same.
Mm-hmm.
They can help even with generational traumas and issues. It could be a good helping process for addictions and compulsive behaviors, possibly. But like we have stated before, we are not medical doctors. We are not telling you to stop any PhD medical advice for this. Do not replace one for the other. Or I shouldn't say don't replace the spiritual work for the medical advice. If you feel medical advice replaces the shaman work, then absolutely, by all means, do what is safest for you. But we are not medical doctors to prescribe or overwrite what your medical doctor is saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important to keep up with your doctor's orders and your therapies and treatments and medications. It's okay after a soul retrieval to feel uncomfortable in that you have existed for so long in that coping way of living, in that fracture. And, it's okay to learn, have to feel lighter and more yourself. And before long, it won't feel uncomfortable. It'll feel great. I think that's only been like once or twice for me and the client. It's been more of a release and like a let go. It's like you see their body physically like releasing tension when it comes through. It's only been like something that happened when they were really, really young, like 5 or 6, and they're in their 40s or 50s finally addressing it, that they're like, I don't know what this is, because they spent so long
Mm-hmm.
in that coping. But it's okay to feel uncomfortable in the new you, but you don't want to go back to how you were. What else should we summarize, Maria, for our friends with us?
I've also come across the very significant is when it was during a hypnosis session, and it wasn't even a past lives regression. It was another hypnosis session, and when this person, when I brought them back out of the trance, they really connected the dots, and they really got really clear memory about a childhood. And she was, oh my gosh. I mean, she was crying through the session, but she go, I feel so much better because I have an understanding, and it was her weight. She said, I just can't. And so we did a hypnosis session. So what led me was it led me to her childhood.
Mm,
And I kept on, who you are now is not who you were. I go, let's give love to that child. Let's give love to the inner child. So that was how I was directed. It was completely off the weight management protocol, you know, but it was something she needed to work with. So
mhm,
it became a hypnosis going back to the inner child. So and it was really, really, very profound for her that day
mm.
because she
So it's
never
very
even thought
traumatic
about it. Yeah,
experience that caused that.
yeah, yeah,
Ooh, which answer divine were you not expecting? Um,
yeah.
I'm going back through the mini novel of notes to make sure we did get everything, and I'm pretty sure we did. Um, I do like the whole like if you're dreaming about reclaiming something, but you never quite get to see what that is, you know. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the mysticism of dream work. Like you get so close and then you wake up or it changes and you're like, but what was that final piece? And I think maybe in the dream instance, it's like you're not quite sure what does a soul piece even look like to tell you to reclaim it, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I wish my dreams were that simple and to the point. Mine aren't. Half the time I'm dreaming about people I'd never met. I'm somebody that I've never just watching like movies, like I'm like, this had to be another country, another like what the hell? Um, what did I put in my water before I went to bed? Like, what was this about? Um, but now next week, let me go to my other tab of notes. Uh, we are going to have a guest on with us. We're going to get into fairy working with our friend Kayla Ray. She was on with us a couple weeks ago about alien energies and working with them for healing. Not all aliens are bad. Not even all reptile aliens are bad. And they usually get the bad rap, right? And they're like, no, not all of them. Just like humans, there's good and bad. She also works with them little fairies. And so she's going to jump on with us next week, 7 o'clock, over working with the fairies and using them in some healing work, which is going to be all new to me. I'm usually the one yelling at them in the store for misplacing things, knocking things over, you know. Um, I don't work with them much, as you can tell.
No, I don't. I don't too. I don't. I know they're elementals, but I
Hmm.
really don't work with them much. I think they're cute, cute little bug. Very
Yeah.
powerful little ones. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
don't
They can be
know.
tropes. Not all of them are helpful. I do know that. Um, they come in different sizes, shapes, looks, and I think the biggest thing that I learned, and this was from Marianne, not even Kayla, that most of the fairies that get into your house and everything that most cartoons are based off of, they're like, they do not like animals. Like they're not buddy buddies with them. They're not like being
Oh,
nice. She's like,
I did
those little
not know
people
that.
that you're riding the animal. She's like, they're tormenting, they're bullying, they're forcing the animal to. Yeah, she's like, why do you think then there's all these other pictures of cats eating the fairies? And I'm like,
I did not know
oh,
that.
I'm like, okay, burst my childhood like fairies are fun. Have bubble things. Um, so yeah, we
Did
we have a
not
lot
know that.
to pick Kayla's brain over on fairies and working with them. And I'm automatically thinking like, oh, gardening and creating sacred space outside, and how to work with them that way. But I'm sure she's going to expand on that more than even that. So, but yeah, if you're into fairies, join us next week. The week after that, we are going to have Kathy Fedetic on with us. She is multi-talented in her energy healing. And if you are familiar with the Mansfield Reformatory, that has been in many movies and is like the big haunted prison here in Ohio. She is behind that massive yearly Parapsychon. And we were just out there vending a couple of weeks at that. So she's going to talk about energy healing during and after haunted investigations in haunted locations and how best to keep your energy straight. And, you know, working with the spirits and the land and the buildings that they're in and all sorts of fun. So I'm excited that she's got time to come on with us for that. It's going to be exciting. She spends a lot of time down there in Mansfield. So I'm like, hey, can you sneak me into those places when you're supposed to be? I want to go see the good. Yeah, so we have fairies next week and then haunted energy work the week after. So we've got some fun topics coming up for you guys on Tuesdays, wherever you're watching us now, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time. So,
and bring your questions. Bring your questions. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with paranormal. I know a little bit of it. I haven't really gone in, but yeah, bring your questions.
yeah. But well, thanks for joining us, guys. If you've missed any of our previous episodes, they're all available on YouTube to go back and watch. And you can always ask questions from previous on our lives too. We'll answer those because we like talking about it and we like visiting and meeting and talking with our like-minded friends here. So,
yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining. You got something else, Maria?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No. I mean, I go like-minded people. Yes, I love talking about this. I can stay up all night and talk about various things in spiritual. I'm sorry. I have family members that does not like the woo-woo stuff.
So this is your chance to get to talk about it with us, huh?
Yeah. This is refreshing.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully we get to see you next Tuesday at 7, and we look forward to seeing you then. Bye, guys.
Bye. Good night.